Hello everybody, my name is Kip Crete, and today, after many delays, we are here at last, the Mann Co Armory. And to kick things off, we're looking at the lovely lady every Russian man wants to put their hands on. And no, I'm not talking about Miss Pauline, or the gender-swapped medic. I'm talking about the Duchess of Damage herself, Sasha. Now, to start things off, let me explain how this is going to go down with a little disclaimer. This is my video, and therefore my opinion. But I try to use as much fact and statistics as possible. And if you disagree with what I have to say, that is your prerogative. And in fact, I am very interested in hearing your opinion, so please put your thoughts in the comments below. Now, this series is going to take a look at each weapon, looking at the stats, strats, and psychology of these weapons to determine what makes them so special. And we'll be looking at multiple categories, rating each attribute on a scale of 1 to 10, then averaging the total to give the weapon an overall score. The categories will be as follows: aesthetic, power, range, targeting, accuracy, mobility, versatility, balance, ease of use, and finally, the fun of using the weapon. Now, the stock minigun has a very simple aesthetic, with a realistically styled design that still achieves a cartoonish massiveness. The minigun itself tells you everything you need to know. You're going to be big, slow, but very, very powerful once you get in the action. In addition, the minigun has a variety of reskins, which can also reflect the user and add some individuality to it. Overall, it's simply badass. And when it comes to aesthetics, I give the minigun a 9 out of 10. The only reason I don't rate it perfectly is because, as cool as it looks, the age-old question remains: where the hell is the trigger?
Yeah!
This one seems like it's fairly simple, and overall, it is. The minigun is a beast, being DPS in the flesh. At close range, it has a DPS of 500 to 540 damage per second, easily mowing down a fully overhealed heavy, even with a pocket medic, in a second. This damage falls off to 50 to 300 at mid-range and 50 to 100 at long range, and in addition to that is done through 10 shots per second, with each shot using 4 pellets with about a 4 to 14 damage each depending on the range. Catching the enemy at close to mid-range on open ground is practically a guaranteed in 3 seconds of accurate and sustained firepower. Keywords being open ground and accurate and sustained. The minigun outputs a lot of damage, but with bullet spread and more maneuverable opponents, you need to get really good at tracking and positioning to make the most of it. Still, the minigun is very powerful in the right hands, so I will give it an 8 out of 10. This is where the minigun starts to falter a little bit. As stated earlier, the minigun does colossal damage at close range, to the point of being a practically guaranteed kill in 1 second at point blank. But as you target opponents further and further away, the damage fall off and bullet spread will really start to hurt that DPS, bottoming out at 50 to 100 damage per second at long range, but that's assuming really good tracking and lucky bullet spread. The minigun is most effective at the cusp of close and mid-range, where it keeps its high damage output, but keeps the enemy at a safe distance. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, but Kip, it does the most damage at point blank, remember? 1 second kill, right? Why do you say close mid when close does more damage? Well, to answer that, the point blank damage boost applies to generally every weapon, including the weapons of those trying to kill you. And with every class being faster than heavy, at point blank, tracking becomes very, very difficult when they can simply circle straight faster than most heavies can turn. So a smart player can kill any heavy at point blank without too much difficulty. For that reason, I rate the range of the minigun a 3 out of 10. Its highest damage range is too risky and too difficult to utilize effectively, and the long range is remarkably ineffective and inefficient, leaving the heavy trying to time things out on a middle ground that can be very, very difficult to do in the mastiff clusterfuck of combat.
Kill 'em all! God save the Queen! There's the way to do it!
The minigun is a hit-scan weapon, meaning that it fires bullets, which, in TF2, fly straight, hit exactly where they are fired when they are fired, and require a direct hit to do any damage. For the minigun, that's a bit of a blessing and a curse. It allows the heavy to easily apply pressure and damage to the enemy, but it has a very, very linear attack. If the other guy isn't directly in front of you, or in the stream, you're not hitting him. And if they get behind anything, any little bit of cover, that's 12 seconds and $400,000 of trying to break the indestructible map to get the coward hiding behind it. This means that unless you're on open ground or away from any cover, corners, or anything that could prevent you from hitting the enemy first, you're always at the disadvantage. So for that, I rate the minigun's targeting a 4 out of 10. The reason I don't rate it lower is because most weapons in TF2 have the same issue, save for explosives and projectiles. This one is a little tricky. You see, the minigun is a DPS weapon, so it relies on consistently pouring out firepower and bullets rather than trying to precisely place them in the enemy. The bullet spread makes the minigun a little tricky to be used precisely, and that compounds with the strange middle ground ranging to make a bit of a problem when it comes to trying to be accurate. However, most good heavies learn to track and aim for central body mass to get the pellets to cover more of the enemy's hitboxes, so the accuracy can be improved upon to a degree, and it becomes very important to good heavy use. That said, however, the heavy's goal with the minigun is to simply output more bullets in the opponent rather than to be precise with them, even though it will help the heavy to do so. For that reason, I will rate the minigun's accuracy a 5 out of 10. Now this one hurts a lot. The heavy is already a slow class, and this massive murder machine doesn't help. Spitting up alone drops the heavy's already slow 77% speed to a ridiculously immobile 37%, making you a sitting duck. You can shoot back, and maybe that mile per century strafe can dodge a direct rocket hit, but once you start firing, you're pretty much committed to the former part of fight or flight, while other classes see almost no hindrance on movement when attacking. However, there are a few techniques that good heavies use to help themselves get going a little quicker. For one, timing. The minigun takes 0.87 seconds to rev up and spin down. You can negate that 0.87 seconds of initial slowdown by simply jumping forward and revving in the air, giving you that last bit of distance and momentum before you get caught at a snail's pace when you land spun up. Also, don't stay spun up. Once you've killed everything you need to, which, if you're ranging it right, should only take 3 seconds per opponent at max, spin down and continue your merry 40% faster way. As a general rule of thumb, against a single opponent, given rev time and average kill time I keep bringing up, if you're only going against one opponent, your minigun should be only active for 5 seconds. 1 to rev up, 3 to kill, and another 1 to spin down. So the minigun does slow you down, but it's something a heavy can work around to achieve more mobility. So I give the minigun a 3 out of 10 on mobility. Also, you can try B-hopping, which, if you haven't seen my Fists of Steel vs. Gru video, link in the description, B-hopping is basically jumping forward, then jumping again as soon as you hit the ground, rinse and repeat. This allows you to keep airborne momentum and really helps you move faster. This is something you can do as any class with any weapon though, so I didn't take it into consideration when ranking the minigun's mobility.
Play ball!
Now, all stock weapons set the standard for every other weapon of its type. meaning that the default in any category should be well balanced to fit any situation. The minigun does this perfectly. Damage-wise, it's second only to the Brass Beast, which rightfully gets about as much use as a Virtual Boy due to its nightmarish downsides. Rev time, it's second only to the Tommy Slab, which it still outdamages even at the long range the Tommy Slab is supposed to reign supreme in. Almost any situation you put the stock in, it can handle just as well as any other option, and be ready to immediately adapt to the next situation without having to change loadouts and with none of the downsides the other weapons bring. Short of the stock minigun, I don't think there is a more versatile stock option in the game. So in versatility, I give the minigun a 10 out of 10. Now this one is very simple. It's a stock weapon. It was balanced since the beginning, and it's still balanced now. The minigun is given some great strengths, with fitting costs that can be worked around through practice, and as stated above, is very adaptable to various situations. This one's an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Now, most people think Heavy is down there with Pyro as one of the easiest classes to play. And it's easy to see why. The Heavy and his minigun doesn't have a hell of a lot of tricks and gimmicks to deal with. It's simple. Rev and spray in the enemy's direction. Conceptually, it's very easy, and new players pick up on that pretty easily. But there's a lot more to Sasha than meets the eye. The timing, precision, and positioning required to truly master this weapon is something that can't be easily explained, only experienced. It's kind of like playing Captain Falcon in Smash Brothers. It's easy to learn, and you can be decent at a new level, but true mastery is leagues above in skill and results. And so for this reason, I give the minigun an 8 out of 10. Now this is easy, and as a heavy main, I'm biased, I admit it, but come on! It's a freaking minigun! A giant revolver machine gun! If you haven't dreamed of firing this kind of thing just once in your life, please check your pulse, because you're probably not actually living. And if you are, find psychological help, you freak. 10 out of 10. Fight me.
You did well!
So, overall, the minigun gets rated a 7 out of 10. Personally, I'd rate it much higher. Then again, I did set all the criteria, and that's what it came out to be. So, maybe not? I don't know. But personally, I really enjoy the stock minigun, especially my BEA beautiful Strange Clock field-tested coffin nail minigun. So beautiful. Love it. As a heavy main, I highly recommend the stock minigun to help new players learn how to play heavy, and for the experienced to have a versatile weapon to handle any situation thrown at them. It's a great weapon, and it really deserves to be highly rated and more highly used. Now, do I think the stock needs changes? Not necessarily. I think it's pretty good. But there is one idea I've heard that I think would be pretty interesting and would overall be fairly good for the game in general, and that is applying the 20% damage resist when at 50% health and spun up from the Natasha and Brass Beast, and applying it across the board to heavy primaries. I think it would certainly help the heavy be a more effective tank, and I think it would be a balanced enough change that it would not throw off the gameplay while still making Heavy more fun to play, more viable, and just encourage more people to try him out. So, did you agree with my rating? Tell me in the comments what you thought. And for the next video, tell me what you want to see me do, the Tomislav or the Natasha. Vote in the comments, and I'll make it so. Also, a quick note before I go. I know this project was delayed and I'd like to apologize, but I will also not be placing any particular schedule on future videos, because right now my life isn't stable enough to place an upload schedule other than tentatively saying I will do a video every 1 to 2 weeks. You can help me, however, make this a more viable option for my life as a career by liking, subscribing, and sharing my videos, as well as joining my Steam group and Discord and donating to my Patreon. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!